I am obsessed with making my spines like this. They have solved the issue of the alligator journal, and they really give you the ability to have a nice big spine like this, but it's still very moldable and flexible, which sometimes the bigger spines can be a little too rigid. So I think that if you have been struggling with any of those issues, I think you're going to absolutely love this video and this idea. I'm Ingrid Carlson, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. If it is your first time joining me, welcome. A big, warm Texas hug to you. And if you're not already following, go ahead and pause that button right now and hit the follow button as well as the little bell, and that gives you notifications every time a new video of mine comes out. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples here that I have using this binding, and you can see here I have two signatures on this journal. And if you are completely new to journaling, bookbinding, any of that, a signature is just a group of pages that is put together, and then they can either be sewn in, stapled in, or glued in to the spine of a book. And so here I have two separate signatures, and then on this one that I just made, and if you haven't caught this video, go check it out. I'll have it linked in the description below. But this is just one signature, so it's just one group of papers. I think that's my center. So it's these papers, and then this is my cover, and you can very faintly see the lines here that we have made that give it, so right here it looks very flat, but once I start adding ephemera, we can envision how big this can get. So in this case, my journal goes from, or my spine goes from being like this completely flat to adding probably about 1/2 inch, which is pretty big. And what I love about this method too is that when it's not full, it sits more flat, and then as it grows, it expands and allows for all that yummy ephemera to sit inside of here. This is one that I made using an envelope from Dollar Tree, and I've just tucked in the flap. So you can see here that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 score lines, and this odd number works the best because you have a center piece, and you can see this is like this where it lays flat, and then you have the capability of expanding. Now if you wanted your spine to be bigger, let's say you wanted it to be 3 inches, then you would keep that in mind, and this whole thing would be 3 inches wide. We're going to make one together so that I can show you step by step, but it's super easy. And I'm going to show you two different methods. One where you're just using a single piece of, whether it's an envelope or paper or whatever we have on hand, versus something like this where we are actually adding a piece that will be the spine. Both ways are super easy. One just has a little bit of an extra step, and then that's pretty much it. And I'd love to know if you have seen a method similar to this or the same as this before, if you've used a method like this before, and what you think of it. And then also, I'd love to know if you like a gator mouth journal or not. And if you are new to journaling, gator mouth is when you have filled the journal so full that you can't close it here, and so it creates a gator mouth. The first example I'm going to give you is using this printable that I have on my Patreon, and I'm going to show you how to do this using a scoreboard. And a scoreboard is just this board, and it's got these notches in here. So when you lay your paper, grab a piece of and take this little scrap. You're going to grab your paper, and the scoreboard usually comes with a tool. You can get a tool like this that has these little balls. This is for, I believe, embossing. That's what my grandmother used to use it for. Or you can get something like this, and I think this is the type that comes with this. And this is a bone folder. I think originally bone folders were made out of ivory, but this is just plastic. And you're going to line your paper up at the edge so that it's flat. You want all the sides to be completely flat to get the best precise measurement. And then let's say you want to score at 2 inches. You're going to press down. And I hold my bone folder like this, kind of like a pencil. And you're going to want to put some pressure, but you don't want to push too much. And you also want the angle to be here. This is what is hitting the paper. If you go here, you have the possibility of cutting through. Of course, I'm not doing it now, but if I was using a thinner piece of paper, then I could possibly cut through. Now, I did want to show you on that one, I pressed pretty hard, and on these I didn't, and you can definitely see the difference. This is a much stronger line. It's going to be easier for you to fold that line. Also, another thing with the board, whatever side you are scoring on, that's actually the side that bends the easiest. So if you wanted this to bend the other way, then you would turn it here. I'm just gonna, and you see, but you can turn it both ways, so it's not a deal breaker if you do it. A lot of times I do it on the right side just because I'm working and I completely forget that I need to do that. So I'm going to take this printable, and then also if you do not have a board like this, it's okay. You can actually, what I would do is I'd go on the back side and I would decide where my center was. And usually that's the first thing that I do is I find the center, and then I would take a ruler and start marking the center. So, let's see if I have a, okay, so let's say, where was my center? Right here. I would just take that and I would start, I believe these are, the way that this is marked, these are inches. So you have an inch here, you have the 1/2 inch, you have a 1/4 here, the 3/4 here, and then these are 1/8 of an inch, I believe. And so depending on if you wanted it to be like this, so your folds like this can be thicker or thinner. So for example, you can see here, these folds are thicker than these folds here. So just depending, this also makes this more pliable versus this is more stiff. And that's why you can see here that this one holds its shape better than this one, because this one, they're smaller and so they don't have as much surface space. So depending on where you would want that, you would decide if you wanted it, let's say you wanted it at every 1/4 of an inch. So ignore this. This is, I think it's centimeters. I got this at Daiso, so I'm not sure, but pretend that this is, I'm going to guess this looks like about 1/2 inch. No, not quite, but let's pretend that this is 1/2 inch and that's where I want my lines. So I would go 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then I would do the same on the other side from the center, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Think of a number line and you're doing the positives. Whatever you do on one side, you're going to do on the other side. And I apologize for bringing math into this. They did say you use it. So I'm going to show you how to do it using this. So like I said, I try to just find the center, because my center is going to be, okay, so it lined up at about 5 inches. And if it's not completely centered, it's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and make my center line at 5 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and skip 2 notches. So the first notch we said was 1/8. The second notch is 1/4. So we're going to go here to the 1/4, and I'm going to just run my bone folder down. I'm going to skip 2. And now remember, that's my center line. So what I did here, I added 2. I'm going to do the same on this side. So I'm going to go 1, 2 notches. And you want to be holding your paper pretty tightly on here so it doesn't move around. You can fix it, but sometimes that if it moves around, your line will go wonky. And then we're here, so we're skipping 2 and coming down. Now what I like to do is, and look how pretty those score lines are. Aren't they beautiful? Hopefully they're showing up on camera. I like to go through and fold each line. Now when you are scoring, let's say you're doing the 1/8 of an inch, this process is going to be a little more difficult, a little bit more cumbersome, because the lines are so close together. But now you can see it adds that movement. And look, we have a little book. I mean, and it lined up perfectly with this edge, so it literally looks like it is a book, doesn't it? So that is our first way of doing it. Then the second one I'm going to show you, and do you see how easy that was? The second one I'm going to show you is I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to go through my papers here, and I'm going to grab 2 sheets. One is going to be my cover, and the other one is going to be, no, let's see, let's do these 2 possibly. Okay, the first one is going to be my, even though I want blue, I think I want blue. Let me see if I have a paper that would look pretty with that blue. Oh, this rose pattern might be cute. Let's see if this is my, I think we're going to go with this. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this down because I want my stripes to go horizontally onto my spine. So I want them like this instead of like this, but you can, pick however you want. I'm actually going to cut this down so that it goes vertically instead of horizontally. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off the edges of both of the papers since my printer prints with borders. Okay, now that I have completely cut out my borders, once I was cutting, I decided that I actually want this to be the cover. And I did make an oops when I was printing this, and so that is going to be on the inside possibly, depending on how we cut this. And then this is going to be my spine. I think that's going to be really pretty. So I'm going to decide what size I want the journal, and I think I want it to be a little bit smaller. So I want the base of the journal to be about this big. Let's see what our measurement is here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and Actually, I'm just going to mark it, and I'm going to cut it with my cutter. Well, I don't know where my pencil is, so I'm just going to mark it like that. And I have this cutter, which I don't recommend. I don't really love it that much. I think it's We Are Memory Keepers, and this is the scoreboard is Martha Stewart. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my pieces out. So where's my cut line? Is here somewhere. And then I'm going to measure this out to, I think I said 7 inches, but yeah, that is not 7 inches. What was I thinking? That is 4 inches. So I'm going to cut this to 4 inches as well. And so see, we're not even going to use that. And then I'm going to decide about the height, and somehow I cut this wrong. It was probably the edge cut that I cut. So let's just line this up and cut off so that we can make it even-ish. It doesn't need to be perfect, but so there's not that big of a. Okay, so now we are looking at about 3 3/4 of an inch if you're doing it along with me. I'm going to put this away because we don't need this anymore. Oh, we do need it to cut the rest of the pieces. Sorry. Like I said, I think I don't like it that much, so I'm always putting it away. And I'm going to decide about how high. I'd like it to be more of a square. And so just eyeballing it, it's going to be here, somewhere here. So I'm going to just line that up. And I'm going to go ahead and maybe I'm going to go a little bit smaller. So this is about 4 4.5 inches. And automatically I'm going to flip this way because I like the line. Let's see. Yeah, so I think this is going to be my cover. Yeah, because I like the roses to be more on my right side because this is going to be the edge. And then this will be the part that gets attached for the spine. So if that gets covered, I'd rather have that covered than this covered. And now I'm going to, now here you can do the same thing. What I like to do is use my piece as a template. Okay, I said it was 4 3/4. Oh, and actually it's 4 and, is that quarters? Now that I say that, I think it's 5/6. No, it's 3/8. Oh, brother. Yeah, so it was 4 3/8. And I'm just going to double check that it's the same. So all I'm doing here is I'm mimicking, and that is not the same. Hang on one sec. Okay, what did I mess up here? Was this the 4? Okay, I'm not sure what measurement I gave you before, where that came from, where I pulled that out. But it's about 4.5. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it straight across. And so now this is going to be my spine. Now I don't want to cut it the same width as this. I'm going to decide about how big I want it. Now, a lot of times when I'm working on journals, I will, especially if I'm doing a custom journal or if I am doing, let's say, a theme journal that I know I want to be a certain size, then I'm actually going to work on my inside pages first, and then I'll make the cover to fit that. But if there's other times where I don't, like for example, these, and you've seen me make journals on my channel before where we start with the cover. So if you're going to do that, here's where you just do a little bit of guesswork. So you're going to just line up, and I like to have probably, let's see, probably about an inch of layover, but I would say you're probably safe. We'll go with about half an inch so we don't cover up those pretty roses. And so now we're going to say, okay, that's about half an inch. Does anyone know where I put my pencil or my pen? So we're going to start here. I'm going to do the half an inch is here. So I actually think it's more like 3/4. It's hard to gauge with this. Actually, I think I can, no, I can't put this away yet because the measurement goes this way instead of this way, because this is your cut line. So this is 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. So it's going to the left instead of normally especially in the United States, we go from left to right. So I'm trying to figure what this is. So this is actually, I think that's why I messed it up before. Yeah, so it looks like, I think, no, that's a half an inch. What is that? Okay, so that's about 3/4 of an inch. So I know that I want that to be, I'll put these away before I get confused. I know that I want that to be the edge here. So that's going to be my first score line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just play an estimate. I'm going to look at it like this, like, does this look good? Do I want it to be? So this is, I'm going to pretend that this is stuck here. So let's go ahead and, actually, let me grab a paper clip. And we're going to just attach this here. We'll go ahead and do the bottom so that it's sturdy. So now we're going to just fiddle with it until we decide what our spine is going to be. This is the edge of our, that's the cover. So if we want a small spine, we would then cut this somewhere here. If we want the spine to be bigger, then we're cutting somewhere here. Does that make sense? So depending on how wide you want your spine is the measurements here. So I think that we are going to go with something like this. So just to make things easier, I'm going to line it up with, because I have lines on my paper, I'm going to line it up here. And we're going to see what this measures out. And I'm going to grab my other board so I can give you a better measurement. So where was my line? Right here. So let's go here. So I think it's 5 inches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches total. So I'm good with that. I'll go ahead, excuse me, I'll go ahead and cut it down. It's right there. Line that. Now we can get rid of this. Oh, and I don't think I finished telling you. So, for example, when you are when you are doing this without a scoreboard, you're going to place the, like I said, if you're here and this is your center line, and then you're going to score, let's say at a quarter inch, quarter inch, quarter inch, quarter inch, you know, so this is my center line. Then you're going to do the same on the bottom. And then I take a ruler and I'm going to line up the two. We're going to pretend that this is the bottom. And then you just take your paper, holding your ruler very tightly. You're just going to start making a fold, and it's not going to be as sharp as your scoreboard, but once you lay it down and then you flatten it out with either a bone folder, or you can use the edge of something rounded like scissors, then you're going to get a nice strong line or a sharp edge. So we said that this was it 3/4? Where is it? It's here. That measurement, did you guys see that? That measurement is different than the other measurement. So it's okay. We haven't made anything in, we haven't etched. Oh, that's why I folded it. I clipped it in wrong. So we are going to, yeah, okay, so that's 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to do the same on this side, and I'm going to mark 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to just make sure that it's just one notch from the 8, and it's not, it's this one. So I'm going to put a little plus there to remind me. Something's going on outside and it is distracting me. Trying to stay focused, Ingrid. No more squirrels. Okay, so we have our 2 lines that is going to be what is going to be attached to the covers. So I'm going to start off by taking this, and I'm just going to fold it in half to find my true center. And if you can't see it, it's somewhere here. And I'm going to, I like to pick just any line as long as I know what it is. So we're just going to stick with the 5, the number here. So this is my center. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to score down the center. And I'm going to go ahead and add at every, just for time's sake of this video, I'll go ahead and do at the 1/4 inches, and I'm going to do 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And then, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do the same on this side. So we're at 1. Oops, don't do that. 2, 3, and 4. And so now you see you have all of that real estate to play with. Then we are going to, and here I can also score down the 2 lines. So I'm going to score where this is, let me think for a second. Hang on. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and score where it's attaching to the cover. And if you need to mark it somehow, mark it. You can always, especially if you're using a pencil, you can always erase those lines. And what I find is if, did you hear that? I think it's the trash truck. Don't they know I'm trying to record? If you, excuse me, if you go by the same number, so if I always use my 5, I just know that that's the one I'm going to use so I don't get confused. So now I'm going to go through, I'm going to put this away, and I'm going to go through and start folding all of the lines. And you can take your bone folder and make sure that you're getting some nice crisp lines. I used to think that a bone folder wasn't that important. It is a game changer with folding. And I'm going to show you the difference. So I'm pushing down pretty hard, and you can see that that is different than that line. You see how much, like, it opens up when I do that. It completely flattens it out. So I'm just going to go through and make sure that I get each one. And this binding came to me as a necessity for a project that I was working on. I wanted something that was flexible and it wasn't rigid, and that's where this was born. I think this was like maybe a couple years ago, and then I've been making them ever since. Now I'm going to decide, oops, I'm going to remember which sides were what. So I'm going to start with one. This is going to be my front cover. And so I'm going to lay this down. And before we do any gluing, I'm just going to make sure that this is where I want it. And then this is going to be here, and you're going to see how thick this spine is. And so this is if you want a really big spine. So this is going to give me the permission to add as much ephemera as I want. So if you think about it, in the beginning, your spine is here, or your book is here. But because your spine is so big, it's going to give you the allowance to make it expand to this size. And so that's going to be a ton of ephemera and layering, but the truth is that it happens very quickly, especially if you love to make clusters. Now you're going to want to, how I had this as my center, and so that way I know where my center is. And let's say, oh, I messed this up. I was supposed to, okay, hold on. Let me think for a second. Yeah, I messed this up. So this is actually my edge. I was wondering why this was here. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to find the measurement first of your center. You're going to figure out how wide you want this to be. And so what I would do in this case is go ahead and find my center like I did, do my score lines, and then once your last score line is in, that's where you're going to measure over whatever it is that you want, like your 3/4 of an inch like we said, and then that is going to be what attaches. So I'm actually just going to snip these two pieces off. So I just cut this too big. There's always a workaround for everything. So don't be scared if you make a mistake like I just did. Okay, this makes more sense now. I was thinking something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I blame the garbage trucks. Okay, so this is I'm just lining it up to those notches in the center or inside. Okay, this makes more sense. I just line it up to that edge right there. And then line that up. And I just want to check it. And let's say I had completely messed this up, then I'm just going to grab another piece of paper. As long as it is not glued on, you can always redo it. And even if it's glued on, you might be able to tear it off. So now we have our booklet. That makes more sense now. So you just want the last edge to be 3/4 of an inch. So so again, just since we kind of went off the rails there, you're going to take your piece of paper, or your spine piece, you're going to measure over to find the true center. I'm just going to use the number 5 here as my starting off point. So that's going to be your center line. And then I'm just going to go 2 over on each side. Actually, we can go ahead and do 3. Actually, we'll just go ahead and do the 4 because I think we have plenty of space here. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to add 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I like to mark my center line here. Okay, go ahead and fold these all so that they're all folded down. And then what you're going to do is from this last line right here, which you have a line here, you're going to measure over, let's say, what was it? 3/4 of an inch. So it's going to be here. I'm just going to mark it here so that I can just cut it with my scissors. And I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to use that 5 as my measurement. I'm going to go to the 3/4 mark, go here, and then I'm just going to cut these off. And these are the 2 edges that are going to stick onto, let's say, the edge here, and then the edge of the other side, and then that's my spine. So hopefully I cleared that up. And so I knew it was easier with the measuring when I was doing it with you. I was thinking this is kind of harder to add math to it. You don't have to. The point is you find your center point, you add your scores to make your width as much as you want, and then from there you decide if you want how much you want this piece to be, whether it's 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 2 inches, whatever this measurement is, and then you're going to cut that down. So that's pretty much it. And then we are going to just glue this down now. I'm going to make sure that my fronts are where they need to be. Look how cute that looks already. And that is my top. And a lot of times I like to do this little cross up here because it reminds me that this is my top. It can be a little T for top, and then that way you know that that's the bottom, and it kind of keeps you oriented. So now I'm just going to take some glue, And I'm going to do one at a time so that we don't get messed up, because you can see that you can get messed up, especially if you're anything like me and you start adding math to the equation. So I'm going to take this, making sure that it's the right direction that I want it, and I'm just going to line it up to the top and to the bottom, and I want to make sure that I'm inside of that fold line so that when it folds over, it's easy. So you can see here that that fold is here. Just going to burnish this down to make sure that it's really attaching to the paper, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. And I always add the glue to this piece. Okay, this is my top. So we're doing, make sure I keep it in the same orientation. I'm going to lay it down, making sure that I can still see my little score line. I'm going to even put it down like this to make sure we're good. And then I will burnish it down. And once you burnish it, you're kind of committed. You can still pull it off, but it's definitely a lot harder. So now you have made your little journal. Now, if you wanted to, you can reinforce this with, I have some of that fabric washi tape that I made that I'm also obsessed with. So I could put a piece here and a piece here and glue it down so that it adheres. But you really don't have to. And depending on how rough you want to be with your journal is how much of that you want to enforce and double enforce. So if you want to be on the safe side, definitely do that. And you can do it up to the second score line, because tape will mold. And so when you do that, let's go ahead and I guess take a piece of washi tape and I'll show you. I'm actually going to take a piece that is wider. And you can, because it's washi, it's paper tape, I'm just going to lay it here on the edge. This tape is old. You can see where the glue is coming up. So I'm just going to make sure to push really well. Then I want to go through and I want to reinforce that fold so that it is reinforced there. I'm going to cut off my excess. And now I've reinforced this. And you can do this with another piece of paper. You can do this with fabric. You can do this with washi. You can also do it, like I said, with the homemade fabric washi, or even the aged tape that we've made. So, and then now this is super simple. If you, let's say you were going to put in, let's say 2 signatures. So I know this is my center. So I have 1, 2, 3 lines, right? 1, 2, 3. And that's why I think that a pencil comes in handy. Then once you decide what your stuff is, then you can erase that. But let me get rid of this. Then I'm going to say, well, I can add a signature to the second. Let's say I want to add 3 signatures to make this easier. So I'm going to say this is going to be my first signature here. And then my second signature, let's say I put it right here. And then my third one is right here. And so then I would mark out the holes. I'm going to pretend that I'm measuring. Normally, you know, I find the center point, which is probably somewhere here, and I find the center point, and then I come up, measure, come down here, try to do the same. But a lot of times I don't measure those out because it really doesn't matter. This is not measured out, and you can see it's close enough for me. If this bothers you and you want it to be completely true center, you can measure it out, and you just measure this piece, find the half, then find the half between these two. And if you wanted to add 5 holes, do the same thing. And so then now you have a place to put all 3 of your signatures, and you're going to have a nice fun journal. So I hope that you enjoyed this process. I hope that you try your hand at making one of these, and I'd love to know what your comments are. And if you've seen this, if you've used a method like this, and if you haven't, if this is something that you would use. I do hope that you consider subscribing to the channel, as well as hitting the like button and adding any comments. That really helps my channel so much. It pushes it out to YouTube and the algorithm and all that stuff. So, and it helps me to create more videos like this for you. So I thank you so much for being here. Oh, and before I forget, I don't want to forget this. This is the most important part. I want to tell you how special you are. You are smart, you're witty, you're funny, and you are loved unconditionally. Until next time, love you. Bye.